So I'm up here at Otis Reservoir at my family's cottage, built by my grandfather back in the 50s with help from the entire family, extended family. And the lot was purchased by my grandfather at the time for $2,000. Lakefront, double lakefront lot, by the way. On the second largest recreational lake in the state of Massachusetts, Otis Reservoir. Now my great-grandfather had a cottage way down at that end that he built in the 20s. And my grandfather built his own here in the 1950s. So it was just part of my family heritage to grow up fishing and hunting like my grandfather and my uncles and everybody. The guy who made that almost inevitable is my Uncle Tom, who's not with us anymore. He's a guy who shared everything that matters about the outdoors with his nephews and his friends and his brothers without even knowing he was doing it. He absolutely loved his family and his friends and just moments. The moment that being in the outdoors, whether you're pulling somebody behind a boat on a tube or jumping off that tower behind me or playing cards or going fishing or going hunting or preparing for either of those things. That's what my uncle was all about. It was about moments. And when we were kids, my cousins and I, my brothers, and there's a lot of cousins, about 18 of them, we would be up here all weekend and we would watch from this dock as two launches, one with a 9.8 and one with a 6.5 Johnson, would head out to the southern end of the lake with our uncles and our fathers, and they'd head out down the lake, and we'd be standing here. We had begged them, we want to go, and this is for the big guys now. We'll fish with. And away they would go, and the tears would fall, and we would stomp around. We didn't get our way. We didn't get to go fishing. We had to watch. Now, we could, of course, stay on the dock and fish with worms, which we did. We caught fish. Sometimes, as we got a little older, we'd throw our plugs off the dock and catch some fish, too. But my uncle would come back, and they'd tell us the stories of what they caught and what had gotten away. And the following day, on Saturday morning, usually, he would take us out. I mean, sometimes he'd take us out blueberry picking, but quite often he'd take us out fishing. With a little launch, probably meant to hold 4 people, with a pile of kids in it. We'd go out with our bobbers and our worms, and we would catch fish, and my uncle would supervise and tell us what was what. And when my uncle was doing something else, working on the pump, which always needs to be worked on, we would be looking at his fishing stuff. And the centerpiece, of course, is the tackle box. There's the tackle box right there. This is a 7-tray box. This hasn't been used by my uncle since 1993-94. He went in those years, 93, 94, right in there, to Plano's, and you would get the Plano boxes. And of course, there are Plano boxes that my uncle has that he was using after 94, 95 that I will dig out and show you another time. But here's a fossil dig, archaeological dig of lures that my uncle's left for us to check out. And it's, as you can see, got some really old lures. And the first one I want to show you is this guy right here. This is the jitterbug. Now, those of you guys that know fishing, you have probably heard of the jitterbug. This is and some of you have probably mastered it. Some of you guys, like my uncle, probably look at this as your favorite lure. And I gotta say, it's one of my top surface plugs. My uncle was a huge surface plug king. My uncle cut the hooks so that you can drag this across the lily pads without a hook getting stuck. Just snip them off. And Arborgast makes the jitterbug, and you can see it's got this like oxidation on it or whatever. You can scrape that off. But the key to the jitterbug, my uncle says, you cast it out. Let it sit when it hits. And let the circles form, where the lure hit the water. Let the rings spread out until they're maybe 10 or 12 feet away from the lure, and then give it a little jiggle. Be ready, because right there, bam, they'll hit, then another little jiggle, and slowly bring it back in. Sometimes speed it up, sometimes slow it down. The jitterbug. My uncle called this a double jolted jitterbug, which means it's double jointed. Actually, it's just jointed, not double jointed. But my uncle had a nice, interesting way of saying this, which I appreciate. So, frog-colored arbor-gas jitterbug, I will tell you that my uncle caught an 8 1/2 pound smallmouth bass on the perch-colored jitterbug at a lake that remains nameless. I will not tell you this lake. You can torture me. I won't tell you the name of the lake. Only a few people know. And he caught that fish back in 1975, and I was 11. And I remember sticking my arm down that fish's throat, my fist reaching the gullet of the bass. Now, I'm bigger than I was then, but that was a massive bass. He never officially weighed it in. He was going to mount it. Ended up getting freezer burned. The story of my uncle. He felt terrible that he kept it. He caught it on a perch-colored jitterbug at an unmentionable lake, not far from here. The jitterbug. And there's lots of different kinds of jitterbugs. You got the smaller. This is an orange jitterbug, and it's got the lure disease, but it's bright orange. If I scrape it, you can see how orange it is. And this jitterbug is just the regular jitterbug, the typical, the standard jitterbug. He's got a smaller, perch-colored, jointed jitterbug. He didn't use the small size much, but a jitterbug nonetheless.